The Unnamable is the movie adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's short story, The Unnamable. It's the tale of two men sitting in a graveyard with an abandoned house in the distance. No one dare go inside because the creature that stalks its halls is unnamable. First, we see a guy in a nightgown. We need to bring those back. It seems like he's trying to get some sort of monster under control. All it does is scream day and night, and the old man has had enough of it. He glances at a portrait on the wall, so I'm guessing the monster is his relative of some sort. He had hoped that she could somehow live a normal life, but it seems like that thought is all over, and he would rather die than listen to her cries any longer. When they gather up his body, the men all agree to just board up the house and let the monster inside rot. This all happened in the 1700s. Jump to present day 1988, and we meet Carter, Joel, and Howard. Carter's telling the story that we just watched, and they're all hanging out in the graveyard right in front of the very house it happened in. Carter goes on to tell another story about a boy who went into the house 50 years after the old man died. What he saw turned his hair white, and he was never the same again. This boy is one of Carter's ancestors, or so he says. Joel is a science major, and he doesn't believe the story's true, so he dares the others to spend the night in the old dark house, which they refuse. Because why would you when you have a nice, warm, comfortable bed to sleep in? I don't blame them. But nonetheless, not wanting to look like a chicken, Joel stays the night.
Well, I, for one, am going back to the university and a warm bed.
Once inside, we get all the spooky tropes. Lighting a candle to see, the door he just walked through is now locked, and of course, cobwebs. A ton of them. He wanders around for a bit, seeing things in the shadows, and when he heads upstairs, those shadows attack. The next day at school, neither Howard or Carter have seen Joel, and they're starting to get a little worried. I mean, they were the last ones to see him alive. That doesn't sound good in a court of law. But Carter doesn't seem to be too bothered by this for now, and is more interested in studying in the library, which is where we meet Wendy and Tanya. Yeah, you didn't think it was going to be a sausage fest the whole movie, did ya? Finally, we get some females. These two dudes invite the girls to the haunted house as a sort of fraternity initiation or something like that. Being horny teens, they agree to meet them there.
All right, but no frat pranks.
No pranks. Honest.
Inside, they find footprints, so that tells them that someone's been here pretty recently.
Somebody's been here.
We know it's Joel, but they don't know that yet. Oh, and once again, the door locks them all in. Meanwhile, at the school, Howard informs Carter that Joel is still missing.
Joel Manton, Carter, our friend who we left last night in that damned house.
So they finally agree to go to the house and look for him, just in case he's hurt.
Well, it's about time.
Back in the house, they tell some ghost stories and then split up into couples and wander around for a bit, mostly looking for a place to shag.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Little do they know that they're being watched. While Wendy's going at it, a severed head drops on top of her. Well, that'll ruin the mood. Her boyfriend gets mauled to death, but we finally get to see our first glimpse at the unnamable monster. It looks pretty cool. Tanya manages to somehow open the locked front door, only to see what she thinks is the monster. Lo and behold, it's Carter and Howard. They manage to wake up Tanya, but no sign of her friends. While they wander around and look for him, Bruce here is beaten to death. Brutal. It's just Wendy alone now. While Howard and Tanya look for her, Carter's more interested in doing some light reading, where he finds the Necronomicon. After The Evil Dead, every 80s movie needed to have the Book of the Dead in it somehow. Carter does eventually find another book which tells us a little bit about the history of the creature. It was the old man's daughter, but something happened to her that transformed her into this hideous creature. He searched in his books for a cure, but nothing worked. He only found a spell to trap her within the walls. But he knew that someday the wood in the house would rot away, and she would then be free. So he planted trees outside in the graveyard where he was buried, in hopes that when the day comes, the tree spirits would be able to contain her.
Trees.
Howard heads down into the basement, which is full of old junk. But then, out of nowhere, Wendy attacks. She thinks that for some reason, he's the one behind all of this. She looks pretty ticked off, too. How's Howard gonna get out of this one? Oh, I guess the creature's taking care of that for him. Well, Wendy's dead. After reading through his books, Carter comes up with a plan. One tree is growing out of a coffin, the same coffin the old man was buried in. He opens it up, which I call bullcrap. There's no way a skinny little guy like Carter could move a heavy stone slab like that. This movie's unrealistic. Well, once it's open, Carter heads on in. Meanwhile, Howard wakes up, somehow surviving his attack with the monster, and he finds Tanya. They have a close call, but manage to escape into the safety of a room with a window. The same window the unnamable monster stared out of for centuries, imprinting its image in the glass. Howard looks at it, thinking it's a fake, but it doesn't look fake to me because the monster smashes its way through and we finally get a good look at it. Again, I like it. She looks like an unnamable demon. They fight for a bit, Howard getting in a few lucky shots, but she's stronger. Tanya just stands there watching. Thanks for the help. Finally, the tree spirit comes in, calling out to the creature, telling her it's time to come home. Howard says that he has to go look for Carter, but after literally 3 seconds, he comes back and is like, well, I couldn't find him. How hard did you look? Outside, they seem to all be safe, but then Howard's pulled under by what looks like a skeleton. Luckily, Carter's there too, and he climbs out of the grave, saves Howard, and they wander away from the house and into the safety of the woods, where Bigfoot gets him. Actually, that'd be a pretty funny sequel. There is an Unnamable 2, which we'll get to next, but what'd you think of the first one? It's not too bad. I really like the creature design, and you can tell that that's where most of the budget went. Now, I did read H.P. Lovecraft's version after watching the movie, and I'd say it's not a bad adaptation. They mention the tree in the graveyard, the face permanently stuck in the glass window, and a creature with cloven hooves. The movie just kind of expanded it all a bit, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. There are a lot of parts like this. Come on, do something. Stop wandering around. Nothing is happening. I get that they were trying to build some sort of suspense, but it just comes off as filler to pad the runtime. Given that this is based off of a short story, perhaps it would have been better as an hour TV show or something. Like I said, the creature design is great, and I like having a female play the creature for once. The actors are fine, the music is quite good, and all around it has that 80s old dark house creepy aesthetic, which is why I wanted to watch the movie in the first place, so I can't complain too much. I give the Unnamable 2.5 Dudes in Nightgowns. Out of 4.
Look, nothing gets a woman more excited than a good scare. I mean, you get them scared enough to do anything.
Kind of perverted psychology.
Hey, if it works, use it.
Yeah, well, this place isn't real conducive to horizontal dancing anyway.